real trauma isn't cinematic. That's something I struggle with. I struggle with understanding what other people's boundaries are, what their lived-in experience is, because mine is skewed. I've had 14 full years as a 911 dispatcher. I've had to go through my husband's cancer. I've had a childhood that was not stable, that was bizarre and contradictory. Grandparents with lots of money and going to country clubs, and a life at home where we were hungry and my mother was doing her best. I have experience with trauma in ways that most people will never imagine. I have talked to someone on the phone for 30-45 minutes before they've blown their brains out. I have talked to children through crisis. I have seen bodies on ride-alongs. I have done a lot of things that most people will never have to experience, and hopefully never will. I don't want them to experience that. It does skew my writing. It skews what I think is appropriate, and I try to handle all of it tactfully. I try to handle all of it with grace and with understanding and with empathy towards victims, towards people that have suffered, because I've been there. I've been in the middle of it. I have, take a domestic call at work, and I've been there. I've been in the middle of it with my ex. Some of the darkest, most terrible things and most more awful moments of my life. But in writing, a lot of readers who've not actually been through it, and even some of us who have, crave those moments. They crave that adrenaline, that angst. And handling it in a respectful way is difficult, especially not knowing what other people's boundaries are, what they're comfortable with, what they are triggered by. I had somebody on here earlier today in the comments section for videos is, oh, trigger warnings are stupid. No, I don't believe that. I think that for general implied stuff, you don't need trigger warnings for an implication that takes a little bit of, foraging through the words to get to. I don't think that you need trigger warnings for standard things, day-to-day life. I do think that there are a lot of topics that are very heavy, and that if you are not prepared for it, can really mess your life up, mess your day up. I don't know how anybody else handles this as far as their writing goes. I'm not going to write an autobiography. I've flirted the idea of writing an autobiography, and it would be interesting, and it would be full of lots of really interesting things. Terrible. I struggle with veracity when it comes to that. There would be a lot of things that would shock people and surprise people about me just based on what I look like and what I do for a living and people that know me. But I don't think that it would be fair to the other people in my life to put it out there in that way. I mean, there's a lot of things that are personal that nobody else has been involved in. I don't think it'd be fair to my family and to those around me to put that out there in that way. I will use some of it for fodder for my writing, for inspiration for my writing, but I also will not cross certain boundaries. There's a lot of things that are off limits. And it's hard when you're being creative and you're putting things out there to go back. You put it on paper and you read it again, you go, and I crossed a boundary. I'm going to go ahead and delete that and remove that. I don't need this kind of assault. I don't need this sort of abuse of my characters to make it a good story. Now, there are some stories where it is important and it is a plot point and it is something that is needed to move the story along. But there's a lot of times where it gets put into books and I go, I could have deleted this entire chapter and it would not have changed the character, it would not have changed the plot, it would not have changed the outcome at all. And I think that kind of gratuitous trauma is inappropriate, and it lessens an author's ability. It makes them look less, in my opinion, and it's probably a harsh thing to say, and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for that. They go, oh, it's necessary. Not always. There are times where it is necessary, and I will agree that sometimes it is the plot. It is something that changes a character in a very dramatic way. But there's also people that make it about the abuser, not the victim, and they make it gross and romanticize it. I hope that I make sense here. I'm kind of just editing, writing as I go, and putting thoughts out there. I've considered making a YouTube channel, considered making a podcast with one of my writer friends, and that may happen in the future. I don't know. I don't know if you guys actually want to hear me talk about subjects or if you think I'm blathering it or yet. So there's that. But I figured I'd just put my thought out there for today. Let me know your opinions in the comments.